Hope you guys are doing well. Firstly, I want to thank you guys again for helping me reach over 2,800 subscribers. I so appreciate the support, and I've got many plans for the channel in 2019. If you guys do find this video helpful, then please let me know and subscribe for future gameplay videos and guides. So recently I've been spending a lot of time PvPing on DayZ, and over time I've come up with some tips and ways of improving at PvP. For the record, I've been playing DayZ for years, so I have a decent amount of PvP experience, and a lot of the old PvP strategies are still very relevant in 1.0. Just before I go into detail, I'll just say that ultimately the way of improving at PvP is simply by putting more hours into the game and gunfights specifically. This guide will hopefully give you a head start or advantage over other players and explain what I've learned from all my experience. Firstly, one of the biggest problems people have with DayZ is confidence and being too attached to loot. So to keep it short and simple, the only real way of overcoming that is by putting more hours into the game and getting into more fights and encounters. It always has and always will suck, spending hours finding gear and then losing it within a few seconds. But it's going to happen at some point, and you've got to accept that you're going to lose your gear. If you're in a gunfight and you're too nervous and scared of losing your gear, you're already at a massive disadvantage. Hopefully base building will be fixed at some point and you'll be able to stash your loot so you don't have much to lose when in gunfights. But until then, I would spend less time trying to find gear in buildings and tents, and I would try finding gear by fighting other players. Staying cool and composed is very important during PvP. Your most important asset while you're PvPing is your gear, and I'm not just talking about having a great weapon and clothing, but being best prepared with only the essential supplies. You need to make sure you're as lightweight as possible. If you're running around Northwest Airfield with enough gear for you and your 3 friends, you're doing it wrong. Stamina is vital when in gunfights. Sometimes you need to retreat for more cover, and if your backpack's full of heavy gear, then you're gonna struggle. Stay as lightweight as possible, but make sure you're not undergeared. This then leads on to the next point, which is preparation. Make sure all your mags are loaded, obviously, but don't fill your entire bag full of magazines. Magazines take up a lot of space and weight, and you could probably fit more ammo in your slots than you could a full magazine. At the same time, don't go into gunfights with one half-loaded magazine in your gun. Make sure to have spare magazines available and in your hotbar. Also, gunfights can last a long time, so keeping energized and hydrated and keeping spare food in your inventory is crucial. Another huge factor when PvPing on DayZ is what guns to use and when to use them. I'm not going to tell you the exact damage or what exact gun you should use, but I can briefly tell you which guns are better for certain situations. When in a small tight building or pushing a building, the best weapon to have is obviously an automatic gun. Smaller SMGs will avoid your character raising his gun in the air in close combat, but larger rifles like the AK or M4 will probably do more damage if you can keep some distance. When running through popular areas where people could be camping in nearby buildings or bushes, you want preferably an automatic gun or at least a semi-automatic gun in your hand, so that if someone was to pop out and shoot at you, then at least you have the right gun out to shoot back. Also, I would always recommend using a suppressor on your gun, because specifically on DayZ it does a really good job of keeping your position uncompromised. Then we have positioning. If you don't have a suppressed weapon and you shoot, to avoid getting flanked and then getting killed by surprise, I would always suggest moving position. I wouldn't stay in the same position for longer than a couple of minutes. If you've just shot at a player and you ruin their brand new jacket, chances are they're probably going to hunt you down and shoot you. So moving positions and rotating is very important. Another thing I'll say is when moving around the map, especially near popular areas, you should always stay near cover. For example, instead of running through the field towards VMC, run through the closest tree line. Running through fields is just a trap, and once you get shot at and you're all out of stamina, you can't do anything but just hope the player shooting misses all of his shots. So probably the most important part of this list is awareness. If you're running around and not concentrating, then again you're at a huge disadvantage. One of the biggest advantages when running around on DayZ is when you're near other players and them not knowing you're there. If you really want leverage or just want to avoid gunfights and encounters with players, then you need to be looking around as much as possible and trying to spot other players before they spot you. If you're on a low populated server or in an area where no one really goes, then you'll probably be fine. Another important part of PvP is timing and patience. Sometimes when in a PvP situation you need to stop, analyze the situation and think to yourself, Is it worth taking this fight? Is it worth me losing all my gear to this player or group? If you don't think you're able to win a fight, then just retreat. But at the same time, it's worth taking a fight, because if you win, then it can be very rewarding. If you do take a fight, then don't play too aggressive. Take your time and wait for the right moment. If you're pushing a camper in a building, don't rush straight away, wait until the player is least expecting it. One of the final and more obvious factors of PvP is practicing your aim. Although the recoil on automatic guns are random, they have a very similar pattern. However, not all weapons have the same recoil pattern. The AK, for example, has a higher recoil than the M4, and the UMP would have the least out of the three. It's good to practice on your own, but it's fairly easy to fight the recoil. But you should only use full auto spray when people are close enough. Try and judge yourself whether to full auto spray or to single fire, but I personally think on average any player more than 20 meters away is too far to full auto spray. But again, this can vary with different guns. Another option that will instantly assist your aim is by using sights and scopes. Shooting with an iron sight is a lot harder than shooting with a sight, as most of you know. So always use a sight over nothing. Learning to shoot with snipers is slightly different, but probably easier to learn. In most cases, all it comes down to is just being accurate with your shot and aiming correctly. I plan to make a separate video on how to hit a moving target and hit long distance shots, but all I'll say now is just remember that there is bullet drop, and the further players are, you should judge the distance and range it accordingly. Or if you manage to find a rangefinder which is powered by a battery, you can get a player's exact distance for the most accurate shot. If you don't think you can hit a shot at range, then just move closer to your target for a better angle. So those are the main points, but here are some final tips which don't have any specific category. One of which might seem quite obvious, but when you're peeking a corner, whether it's a wall or a tree, you don't want to peek wide. You want to move yourself back, leaving space for your weapon, and then peeking, you're exposing the least part of your body. And lastly, organise your inventory, making it as easy as possible to find items. Just a few moments of you searching for your last magazine in your bag can get you killed. Inventory management is key. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found those tips helpful and you'll use these strategies when PvPing. I'll be making a guide on PvP tips in groups, bullet drop on snipers and that kind of stuff in the future. Again, if you guys enjoyed the video, then please let me know and subscribe for future videos like this. Be careful out there and thanks for watching.